Hello, and welcome to the Cleveland International Film Festival Film Slam Stream's post-film conversation for Dolores. My name is Eric Siler. I'm a professor of film, media arts, and communication, as well as moderator for this program. We are very excited to be joined today by the director and the star of Dolores, Scarlet Moreno. Scarlett is an actor and director based in LA. In 2017, she was one of the first five-time feature filmmakers chosen by Robert Rodriguez to be on his show, Rebel Without a Crew. During this time, she completed her first feature film, Moderator, and Scarlett grew up in a town called Laredo, Texas, which is near the Mexican border, and she'll talk a little bit more about that. And then she attended the Tisch School of the Arts to receive her BFA in acting and journalism in New York City. And then she moved to LA where she's pursuing her wildest dreams. Can't wait to learn more about it. But without further ado, hello, Scarlett, and welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, very excited to have you. Dolores, such an interesting film. Uh, is that really based on your life? Did you decide, hey, one day I'm not even going to act? You weren't acting. That was just like a documentary life. Is that what that was?
Well, it's not exactly autobiographical, but it's definitely inspired by, the culture I grew up in, being Mexican American, growing up Hispanic, and living in a bicultural community and environment.
Oh, great. So this is just a fictional story that you created. You just wanted to just tell about a story about this, young girl who's going through some things. So is there, do you have a friend like this, or is this something you just thought of out of the blue?
No, I mean, it definitely wasn't out of the blue. It was something that I wanted to explore because, um, you know, growing up being Hispanic and being also white presenting comes with like its own set of interesting um, ideas and interesting situations. And, when I open my mouth and speak Spanish, a lot of people are very surprised because I don't look like a stereotypical Hispanic person, Mexican American. And so, I've since thought a lot about identity and a lot about what that entails. And so I wanted to explore that through Dolores, which I think is like a more intense and magnified lens of being a white presenting Mexican American.
Oh, that's really interesting. So let's just delve a little bit deeper into that white presenting for our students that are watching. I guess what we mean by that is that just looking at you, you look like a white person with blonde hair. And but like you said, when you speak, you are Mexican, so Hispanic. So I guess that can be confusing for some people. And I guess this is a way to help I guess, identify with your culture and to, I guess, reflect upon yourself. Is that correct, this film? What is it?
Definitely, definitely. It's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of coming of age. And, I didn't even know what the term white presenting was until I probably got to college. The town I grew up in is on the border of Mexico. According to the census, we are 97 to 99% Hispanic or Latino. So everyone around me growing up was Mexican, Hispanic, Latino. So, no matter what color you were or what color you looked, everyone sort of assumed that you were Mexican or at least a little bit Mexican and spoke Spanish. Waiters speak to you in Spanish, things like that. We had tacos for breakfast, like no big deal. So I didn't know that I was different in any way until I left my hometown and until I began to get the question, what are you? Which is like sort of an invasive question, right? It's like not a lovely question to be asked. But when I got to college specifically, I still had like a little bit of a border town accent. My vowels were a little bit longer, which I've lost because I went to acting school where they sort of kick any accent out of you um, for the purpose of acting. But I did have like a little bit of a Mexican accent, and the way I looked didn't necessarily fit with the way I sounded. So I began to get that question a lot. And I think Dolores is like an exploration of that.
I see. So I'm sure you have many stories. You don't have to tell any in which people are talking Spanish and they don't think you understand what they're saying.
Definitely, I definitely have a couple of those experiences.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk a little bit more specifically about the film. How long did it take for you to actually make this film? I know you shot it in LA. How long did it take you?
Yes. So I shot it over, I think we shot for 3 days. We actually shot it at the end of 2015 and released it in 2016. So I'm maybe a little blurry on details now, but um, it took about 3 days to shoot, and then it took, I would say, about 6 months to complete. The editing process is always like a long process, and I like to be fairly involved. So, having meetings with the editor and going back and forth on what songs to use, and post production is really where the movie gets made. So that would be probably what took the longest. And then color correction and, you know, sound design. Luckily, I had a wonderful team and a lot of them were friends of mine. So it was a very fun process, but it definitely took at least 6 months.
Exactly, which isn't that long of a time. Some people can
No,
spend years working on shorts with
yeah.
this. You mentioned friends of yours, so it seemed like I picked up from it. There was nice chemistry in the film. So you, in terms of casting, did you cast your friends? Did you hold auditions? How did that process work?
So in casting, some of the actors were like friends of friends, like the guy who played Carlos was my friend's brother. So that was really fun. The mother I held auditions for and loved the actress who ended up playing my mom. And I think we had great chemistry. And then Cristina, who played Dolores's best friend, who I was like really, really wanting someone very specific for. I also had auditions, and she was incredible. Got in, and I still am friends with her today. So
Oh, good. And I'm sorry, did you mention the boyfriend?
yeah, Carlos,
Yeah.
the guy who plays him was my friend Candy's brother. So I didn't
Okay.
have to hold auditions. So I was like, "Are you down with like wearing a lot of fake tattoos?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course, no problem." So
Okay. Oh, good, good. Now, the story itself, Dolores is, I guess, rebelling. She's a lot of young people go through a rebellious stage, and she, at the end, decided, okay, my mother is really annoying me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get this tattoo
yeah,
with it. So that's the gist of it. So what message did you want to give with this film in terms of overall look? What did you want people to learn from this?
I think I like to leave the ends of my short films a little bit open-ended. I like for people to take away from it what they glean and what they find most effective or most important. Um, I think that's why we see Dolores, we see her tattoo, and then we don't see what happens next. Because I want you to walk away with what you feel about that. For me, the tattoo, which says Blondie, Güerita in Spanish, was a marriage between her identifying with her Mexicanness and being Mexican, and also with her white presentingness, because she's blonde, because she looks this way, and yet she really identifies with this culture that she grew up with. And so she marries the two in this tattoo. And it's kind of like, no matter what anyone thinks, this is who I am. This is what I love about myself, which I have really, I'm getting a little emotional, but which I have really come to find in myself is that my biculturalness, my bilingualness, my Mexican Americanness is something that I will always identify with and always love about myself, no matter what anyone else thinks. So
That's really important to, yeah, not worry about what other people think if you're
yeah.
being true to yourself in a positive way. I just want to remind everyone we're talking to Scarlet Moreno, the director and star of the film Dolores. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A and we'll get to them as time allows. We do have a couple questions that have come in, and one person wants to know about the father. Did Dolores's father pass away, or did he just leave his family?
He left his family. The idea is that, so the scene where her mother is praying to this altar, she's praying to the patron saint of lost things. And of course, this is background information. This is something that I, as the filmmaker, know, but hope that people can take away from it. And she's praying for him to be found, to return. And she has this surreal dream that he does, and she's dancing with him, because I think deep down, all she really wanted was to have this like wholeness and this whole family for Dolores, but it just didn't happen the way she wanted.
Understood. Usually most filmmakers I talk to say no to this, but I hope you say yes to this. Are you going to make a sequel?
Oh no.
Oh, you said no.
I don't think I'll make a sequel. I honestly, if somebody saw the short and like loved the concept and wanted to expand on the concept, I would definitely be down for something like that. I don't know about a part two, but definitely something around this concept and around this character, I would be interested in
Yeah,
exploring
I would be interested in it too, especially, what you just revealed about the father and, what happens at the end with Dolores. It'll be good to see. So
Yeah.
maybe, fast forward, a few
No,
years into the future.
yes, who knows? Exactly.
That's good. And we have another question that's come in is, I think you kind of answered it already. Is why does the mother seem so fond of Dolores's father, but Dolores seems to despise her father?
I think it's the question of and the subject of, um, in a lot of minority cultures, there is a need to or a feeling of wanting to assimilate and to, be like everyone around you and not be different and not feel othered. And for Dolores's mom, I think the answer lies in who her father was and in her white father. And I think the reason that I made the father a character who leaves is because I didn't want it to feel like he was the answer. So if that makes sense. Dolores is angry because he did leave, and her mother still wants and needs and loves the idea of her father because she just still wants that wholeness and that idea of everything being okay or everything being the same or not feeling like the other.
And just exactly. Well, that's really good information there, insight about the father. In terms of the film, I know you took about 3 days to shoot the film and 6 months to edit the film. Is there anything that you would do differently now that you had a chance to see this film many times?
Honestly, no, I loved the process. I love what came of it. You know, I I made this film with whatever I had and at my disposal, and thankfully I had some amazing and talented friends that I worked with. Um, and I just feel like it it became what it was supposed to become. So I don't think I would do anything differently.
Okay, great. And what about the reception? How has this film been received? I know it's done so much for you personally. What about for others? What has it done for others?
It actually was received and has been received very well. Um, I think it's because at the core of the film is something that everyone can relate to, which is the idea of identity and what it means for everyone. Because no matter where you come from, culturally, racially, ethnically, your identity is something that you eventually are forced to come to terms with, and who you are becomes uh, what you do in the world. And so I think everyone can relate to like sometimes how hard it is to look at yourself and know yourself. And so I guess I think that's why it's received very well, is because I think everyone has had experience with that. And also because as much as it is an identity story, it is a coming of age story. It is a story of family. It is a story of individuation, which is the process of like becoming who you are outside of your family unit, outside of what your parents want you to be, which I think a lot of people also deal with. So I think that's why it has been well received, is because it's a very universal issue.
Okay, well, great. It is, and I'm glad that people can continue to see your work as well. One thing I noticed about the film with Dolores's character is that, well, two things. One, it's hard to direct yourself and star in the film. Can you talk a little bit about that process, how that worked? How did you do
Yeah.
both roles?
So it's interesting because as a director, I actually started with movies that I was acting in. So I went to NYU and majored in acting, got my acting degree, and I moved to LA. And when I got to LA, everyone was saying, you know, make your own work, write your own work. So that way you have something to show people when it comes to auditions, or, you know, when you get into a room with someone, you have this thing that you can say, here's what I do and here's what I do well. So I started to write these movies based on complex female characters, and they were for me to act in. So it was through that process that I fell in love with directing. So I've never, I mean, I hadn't only acted and not directed. So I always started with both, which is why it was not like a difficult process for me. Um, you know, thankfully with in the digital age, there's playback. So you can watch yourself, you can watch the scene and say, okay, this is what I need to change, this is what I need to do differently, jump back on set. I'm not saying it's easy. It's definitely not easy. You are wearing many hats. But I love problem solving, and I love being kept on my toes. And I think that's a big part of what I do as an actor and director.
Absolutely. Yes, and it's amazing that you did this in, about 3 days because you have to have a good cinematographer for this as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. She is
Yeah,
incredible.
great. And I like that you used the word she as a
Oh yeah.
cinematographer.
Yeah,
Yes,
my
that's
friend
very good.
Kate, she's
And
one.
we have another question that's come in. It's, I guess, a little personal. They want to know, is that a real tattoo or was that just artwork?
It's not a real tattoo. We used film grade fake tattoos. So basically in the industry, they make like a very good looking faux tattoo, which is what we used. And then my makeup artist was able to make the skin around it look sort of red and irritated, which is how a fresh tattoo would look. And yeah, so I don't have a giant back tat, but I'm excited that you asked because that means I did a good job.
Okay, well, good. That's something that I'm sure a lot of people thought about.
Yeah.
Our last in our last remaining couple minutes or so, can you tell us what's next for you? What are you working on now that we can see
Sure.
hopefully in the near future?
I'm actually working on some more narrative work. I'm writing a short horror film currently, and I'm hoping to shoot it within probably the next 6 months if all goes as planned. I also made a feature film a few years ago called Phaedra, which is a 70s psychological thriller, which I'm pretty sure you can stream on iTunes if you want to watch a feature film that I created. My only feature so far. But yeah, so I'm working on the horror short. I'm also working with a friend of mine, another director, on another horror short. So I have a couple horror films in my near future.
Okay, so that's another side of you, horror,
Yes.
a genre that we can see. Any plans to do any more around representation at all? Anything?
um, I mean, hopefully, right? Like I something that is a very clear line throughout my work and through my short films and even in my feature are complex female characters, female leads. And so I think that I will always sort of have that in my work. That'll always be a part of what I make is, you know, being a woman, what that means, the complexities that come with it. So yeah, I mean, as far as representation, I think that'll always be in there.
Okay. And what about cultural representation? Any plans to do that?
I don't have current plans for it, but I would always, you know, I think that where I grew up is such a colorful place. Mexican American culture, Tex-Mex culture is so wonderful and specific that I think it'll always inch itself into my work. Again, it'll, because of who I am and where I come from, I think that'll always leave its like imprint on anything that I do.
Exactly. You can't escape that. That's your life
Yeah,
every
yeah.
day.
I come
And
in
you
like
never,
sort of who I am no matter what. So
exactly, you never know when you wake up one day that something will hit you in which you say,
exactly.
I have to make a film about this. Well,
Exactly.
Scarlett, this has been such a pleasure to speaking with you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. And before I let you go, we have some students who are watching who are probably studying in Spanish. So can you say a special goodbye to them in Spanish?
Yeah, sure. Muchas gracias por estar aquí conmigo. Me ha encantado hablar con ustedes y ojalá que les había gustado la película y pues a la otra que nos veamos. Adiós.
Well, thank you for that special goodbye. And we want to thank our student audience for joining us for this invigorating and important conversation. For more information about the upcoming 45th Cleveland International Film Festival, please continue to follow CIFF on social media and visit clevelandfilm.org. I'm Eric Siler. Thank you.
Thank you.